Larsen Webb drove the final, dusty mile to the property with a clenched jaw, the weight in his chest heavier than his duffel bag. The $1 price for 100 acres of Montana scrub and pine should have been a warning, but he'd taken it as a sign. A token cost for a clean slate, a place so remote that the memories of his loss couldn't possibly follow. The truck rattled to a halt before a weather-beaten house, its windows like sightless eyes. This was it. Silence. Emptiness. Peace. He pushed the warped front door open, the groan of its hinges the first sound in years. Dust motes danced in the late afternoon light slicing through broken slats. It was exactly the hollow shell he'd hoped for. Stepping into the main room, he froze. The air was different here, not the stale, dead smell of abandonment, but the faint, clean scent of soap. A neatly folded blanket was tucked in the corner of a fractured sofa. An empty can of beans, recently rinsed, sat on the stone hearth. "You weren't supposed to be here until next week." The voice, calm but frayed at the edges, came from the kitchen doorway. A woman stood there, lean and watchful as a deer. Her clothes were worn but clean, her eyes holding a wariness that seemed to age her beyond her years. She didn't look afraid of him, she looked resigned, as if his arrival was an inevitable disaster she'd been awaiting. "I own this place," Larsen managed, his voice rough from disuse. "On paper," she said, her name was Arden Reed. "I've been living here. Hiding here." That was how it began, not with a confrontation, but with a shared pot of coffee made on his camp stove. As dusk bled into night, her story trickled out, piece by dangerous piece. She wasn't a squatter by choice. She was a fugitive, pinned between a rock and a hard place named Harlan Vance. Vance, a mining magnate with a smile that didn't touch his eyes, believed Arden had stolen a priceless artifact from his family, the original deed and survey maps for the Sawtooth Lode, a gold claim that had vanished from historical records a century ago, rumored to be so rich it could bankroll a small nation. More than that, it was tied to the long-ago murder of the original prospector, a crime Vance's great-grandfather had meticulously erased from the official story. Arden, a former archival researcher Vance had hired, had found the truth. And when she tried to use it, the truth had turned on her. The deed was less a document and more a death warrant. Larsen listened, the vast emptiness of his own grief suddenly mirrored by the vast danger of her situation. He had come to escape the world's cruelty, only to find it waiting for him in this forgotten house. He told her to take her things and go, that he wanted no part of it. She just looked at him, that deep exhaustion in her eyes. "Where, exactly?" "They're at the gate of every town between here and Helena." "You bought this place." "You're in it now." The following day, he found the proof. Tucked inside a hollowed-out leg of the ancient kitchen table was a oilskin pouch. Inside, brittle but legible, were the papers, the deed, signed and witnessed, and a handwritten account of the murder by a remorseful deputy, naming the Vance patriarch. It was real. The weight of it, the sheer historical violence of it, was palpable in his hands. He wasn't just holding a claim, he was holding a century-old scream for justice. That's when the first truck appeared, a dark speck on the valley road below. Then another. They weren't speeding, just advancing with a terrible, patient certainty. The law, when Larsen finally got a crackling signal to call the county sheriff, moved with bureaucratic slowness, skeptical of the hysterical claims of a $1 homesteader. Help was an hour away, maybe more. The armed men closing in were 20 minutes. Larsen stood at the broken window, Arden beside him, the stolen history of the Sawtooth Lode on the table between them. His fresh start was gone, incinerated in the furnace of this old conspiracy. He felt no greed for the gold. He felt only a rising, furious clarity. This was the choice: hand Arden and the papers over, reclaim his promised solitude with blood on his hands, or stand. Fight for a truth that wasn't his, for a woman he barely knew, against forces that had already gotten away with murder once. He looked at Arden's resigned, prepared face, then at the advancing vehicles. His pain and loss hadn't been left behind, they had merely been waiting here, transformed into a different kind of trial. To run again would be to die in a new way. He made his decision. "Get the papers," he said, his voice suddenly steady. He moved to the door, not to lock it, but to brace it. Put them in the fireplace, but don't light it yet. It's the only proof we have. He met her eyes. We're going to meet them. And we're going to talk. Until the sheriff's sirens are the only thing anyone can hear. Outside, the Montana wind swept down from the ridges, carrying the scent of pine and impending storm. The trucks rolled closer. Inside the abandoned house, a man who came to hide chose, instead, to stand his ground. The past had finally arrived, and with it, the chance to forge a future worth living for.